Hey guys, today we're going to be talking about performance anxiety. There's a lot of ways to deal with this, but I'm going to go over 3 in particular that are really easy to do to help you get back into the moment. And I'm going to throw in a bonus one at the very end that's going to be a little bit more challenging, so stick around all the way to the very end. If you get something out of today's video, please hit that like button. It does help with the YouTube algorithm, and hit the subscribe button so you don't miss out on our future videos. And if you like this video and you're looking for a little bit more help, I do work with people one-on-one to deal with erectile dysfunction and performance anxiety. There's a link down below on how to get a hold of me. Stick around. All right, let's dig into performance anxiety. So performance anxiety is such a common problem, and it's one of those things that it causes a lot of problems that feel like they're really big, and in actuality, you have to typically just make very minor shifts in order to deal with performance anxiety. The first way is to just change your attitude. And if you're dealing with performance anxiety, most likely you've put a lot of pressure on yourself to perform, and because of that, you've lost sight of why you're having sex with somebody to begin with. And sex is really just about pleasure and connection. So you're trying to give your partner pleasure, you're trying to enjoy pleasure yourself, and then you're just trying to connect with the other person. And that's really all that's there. As long as you make it simple and you go down to the most basic root of why you're having sex, it's way, way simpler and it's way more fun. So try and remember before you go into the bedroom, before you even get to that point, to just relax and make it fun. And that's just really comes down to how you view it. If you think, oh no, I really have to perform and I have to do great, of course you're not going to perform. And if you go in and you just say, I'm going to have fun and whatever happens, happens, you're going to have a lot more fun and you're going to have a lot more pleasure. I mean, think about it this way. If you're sitting there and you're trying to have sex with somebody and you're just thinking in your mind, oh no, am I doing it right? Did she like that? Oh no, is this right? What, am I staying hard? That's a very unsexy thing. Like, you already intellectually know, like, oh, I don't want to think about my grandma while I'm having sex because it's not sexy. It's the opposite of sexy. But then you allow your mind to churn on all these things that aren't sexy. And part of that's just because of attitude. And that brings us to the next thing is, if you are struggling with performance anxiety, one of the best ways to get out of it is to just focus on your partner. So especially if you can focus on giving them pleasure, because it gives you a goal. When you go in and your mind doesn't have something to focus on, it just does whatever it wants and you fall into your automatic negative thoughts. So that's something that we'll talk about in another video, but if you give yourself a goal, something to focus on, it's a lot easier to maintain your concentration on what you want. And if that's something like making sure that your partner really has a good time, because you're putting your focus on making that happen, then it's a lot easier to not have to deal with the anxiety. And it doesn't necessarily make all of the anxiety go away, but it takes time for that to happen. So number 3 is to just roll with the punches. So every guy is going to go through a period of time where they're going to have it happen or they lose an erection. And it comes down to how you respond at that point. And if you spend all of your time worrying about the fact that that will happen, instead of the fact that it's going to happen, the way that you respond is going to be less helpful for you. So let's think about this situation. Let's pretend that you're with a girl and you are sexually virile. Your penis works great. And you're with a girl and she has some trouble getting wet, which is a form of sexual dysfunction that women deal with. A lot of guys don't realize that women have sexual dysfunction too, but it's a common thing. So if you're with a girl and she's having this problem, what would you rather have happen? Would you rather her just completely break down crying and end the moment and ruin it and just completely lose it and disconnect from you, and then she doesn't want to talk about it? Or would you rather her go, hey, why don't you go down on me? Or like position and just make that sort of transition in a way where she doesn't even ask. She just sort of shows you that that's what she wants. Or she moves in and gives you oral sex. Or she just reaches for a bottle of lube and then puts a little lube on and pretends like nothing's going on. So those 2 scenarios are exactly what's happening with you. You can choose, oh no, I'm losing my erection or I'm not performing the way I want. And then you can make it a really big deal and you can shut down emotionally and you can end the moment. Or you can transition and just pretend like nothing's happening and transition it into a way where you can still continue to give that person pleasure and make sure that they enjoy the moment. And if you're doing that, there's a chance your erection will just come back. Win-win. And maybe it doesn't come back, but what that conveys to the other person is that this isn't that big of a deal. It's way less embarrassing to go through the experience where you just continue on and you help the other person have an orgasm. They may not even realize what's going on. But if you sit there and you really let yourself emotionally respond, and I understand it's a really challenging experience. I understand it's embarrassing to lose your erection or to just be worried about that the whole time. But how you respond to it is really important because it's a bigger deal in your mind than it's typically going to be to the person that you're with. Most of the time, women don't find a guy losing their erection that big of a deal because most women have been with enough guys that happens. It's not a big deal. It's a big deal because you make it a big deal. So the best way to deal with it is to just not treat it like a big deal. And then the less you treat it like a big deal, the more you'll realize it's not a big deal. And the less of a big deal it is, the less you'll be scared about the consequences of it. Because performance anxiety, what it really is you're dealing with a fear of future potential negative consequences. And once you start to realize those consequences are not a big deal, and if they happen, you already have a way to deal with it, you'll stop worrying about it. That's just how things work. You know, if you don't know how to get to work the next day, you're starting a new job, you don't know how to get to work, you may be concerned like, oh, how much time is it going to take? What about the traffic and all these things? Once you've driven to work 10, 15, 20 times, you don't worry about that anymore because you already know, okay, well, typically takes me 10 minutes to get here. Sometimes traffic backs up. That may add another 2 or 3 minutes. If there's an accident, blah, blah, blah. You don't worry about it. And that's exactly how this goes. It's just once you move past that, once you've been through it enough times, it stops being a big deal. All right, so that's the 3. Now we're going to get to the bonus one. This is a little bit more advanced. So this one isn't going to work for everybody. But anxiety, it doesn't just happen in your mind. Your mind and your body have a connection. And you know this if you've ever had a stress knot, you're having a bad day and you reach up and you feel your neck and there's a knot there that wasn't there in the morning. There's a connection between your mind and your body. When your mind is stressed, your body is also stressed. So another way to deal with performance anxiety is to recognize what's happening in your body. And so if you can, instead of keeping your focus up here churning on your thoughts, if you can pay attention to how your body feels, it can help you relax. So a couple different things can happen out of this. One of them is that you might just realize, oh, I'm really tense, and you can take a couple of deep breaths and it'll help you relax and get back to enjoying the moment. The other thing, which is completely the opposite, is that you can actually allow yourself to get completely overtaken by that anxiety. And as much as this feels like it's a bad thing, it actually ends up being a good thing. Because if you get so caught up in the anxiety that you have to stop and you have to be comforted, but you don't just let it be a mental thing. If your mind is the only thing happening, you're not experiencing any of the emotion in your body, it doesn't necessarily have to be productive. But if you can allow yourself to feel what's happening in your body, you can feel the anxiety and allow it to come out, and you're in a situation with someone that you trust and they comfort you through that experience, it can actually be a really powerful way to release anxiety permanently. And so it's not an easy thing to do. I really recommend only trying to make that route happen, this route happen, if you're in a relationship with somebody that you really trust and it's somebody that you've been with for a while. Don't try this with a one-night stand. That's not going to be helpful. But this can actually help resolve it if there's a much deeper route. For most guys, performance anxiety, although it feels big, it's a really small thing and you can just make some mental shifts. If you've got a little bit more stuff going on or there's something that may be related to trauma or childhood stuff, then dealing with it in the second way is a little bit more effective. So I hope you got something out of today's video. If you did, please hit that like button and subscribe. And if you are looking for this type of help, but you want a little bit more tailored situation to you, I work with guys one-on-one. It's my passion. It's something that I get a lot out of, and I love watching people overcome this problem because it makes such a big impact on people's lives. So if you're looking for more help like that, go down below. There's a link. You can get a hold of me. And other than that, I'll see you next week.